Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Men Annual number 6, cover dated 1982. This is a king-size annual, so there's 39 pages of story and art in this particular issue, and it is a sequel to Uncanny X-Men 159, when Storm was bitten by Dracula. And there is some debate and discussion by X-Men fans in terms of where this fits into the continuity or chronology of X-Men comics. And there is some discussion that it's got to take place after the X-Men come back from space in relation to the Brood saga. But it's obviously before Rogue joins the team. So we're talking about maybe around issue 168, the early part of the Paul Smith run is when this story takes place. The cover artwork is by Bill Sienkiewicz and it is penciled and inked by him, but the interior issue itself and art is Bob Wiacek inking Sienkiewicz. I prefer when Sienkiewicz inks himself. And this cover is really nice, very designy looking cover. Let's open this one up to the first page, and you can see here that with Bob Wiacek's inks over Sienkiewicz's pencils, we have quite a Neil Adams looking art style here. And of course Neil Adams was a major influence on Bill Sienkiewicz in the early period of his career before he broke free from that and developed his own distinctive style. Now the story opens with Bard College, 90 miles north of New York City. It's a small, highly respected liberal arts school, and you know who is an alumnus of Bard College? Chris Claremont himself. So that's where he went for his university degree. And who is there in the story? Well, it's Rachel Van Helsing, world-renowned anthropologist on a leave of absence from Oxford University. A love affair had ended badly and she needed a change of scene. Despite her best efforts, the past is not easily forgotten. So one of the students there asks her about her name and background. Is there any connection between you and that stuff Bram Stoker wrote about? And she says to her student, I'm surprised. Stoker's Dracula was a novel, a work of fiction. And the class is over. She says she'll see them on Thursday. I don't know if it's really spoiling anything to say that she doesn't see them on Thursday. You'll discover why that is by the end of the issue. And she thinks to herself as she walks across campus on a lovely evening, the woods supernally still, about what she said to Phil, the student. Stoker's book was a fantasy, but the main characters were real. My family has hunted Dracula for generations, but that task now is ended. The Lord of Vampires is dead, and I am finally free. But of course not, otherwise we wouldn't have a story. So someone off panel says, good evening, Rachel. Enter freely and of your own will. So that's one of the demands of a vampire, that you have to invite them in. And it's reversed here. So who is uttering these words? Let's turn the page and we get a nice splash. It is the man himself, the undead man himself, Dracula. And I really like how Sienkiewicz has designed these double splash pages and the way that the title is across the two different pages. Blood Feud. So here we are at Bard College, the residence of Rachel Van Helsing, and here we are at the X-Mansion sometime later. But it's nice how they're linked by the title of the story. And the creative team here, Chris Claremont writer, Bill Sienkiewicz penciler, Bob Wiacek inker, Tom Orzechowski letterer, and Glynis Wine colorist. So that is the creative team that was responsible for issue 159. So Dracula says to Rachel, you look so surprised. My dear, did you truly think I'd suffer the final death? Not so. Your accursed family has been a bane to my existence for too long, because she is the granddaughter of Abraham Van Helsing, the character from Bram Stoker's Dracula novel. Tonight, my darling Rachel, says Dracula, here our ancient blood feud ends. So that is ominous. But you really get to see how well Sienkiewicz does drapery here, and you get that tilted angle that's so distinctive of anyone influenced by Neil Adams playing around with the angles at which you compose the drawings on the page in order to keep it interesting for readers. And here on the other splash page, we have Kitty Pryde throwing a tantrum, but she's got good reason to, at least she's got some reason to. It isn't fair, they don't have the right, what is it? Like, what's the reason here for her tantrum and breakdown? Like, what's causing it? Well, we can see on the next page that it's her parents. She's just gotten a letter from them telling her that they are getting a divorce, and she's brokenhearted over it. They lied, she exclaims. And Cyclops arrives, and he's wondering what on earth is going on. Really nice, the artwork here, where you see the adult X-Men really concerned about Kitty, but also just the sheer violence of this breakdown that she's having. Like, she's tossing her head around, her hair's completely gone wild. And then you get an interesting art technique from Bill Sienkiewicz, where he, instead of drawing a fresh image of a close-up on Kitty's eyes, he decides to photocopy this or make a Xerox of it and blow it up and paste it down on the page. Now, the effect of it is to make her look absolutely demented here in this close-up. So he tries a few things like that in the issue, and it looks pretty good, and I'll point them out as I go through the review. And Storm is protesting, look, we're all your friends, and Kitty just isn't listening to any attempts to comfort her. If I mattered to them, she says, really mattered, wouldn't they have had the decency to tell me in person? So she stalks off, and she says, I don't have a mother anymore or a father, I'm all alone. Now, Storm was trying to comfort her and trying to talk reason with her, and Kitty just responds violently, shut up, you're not my mother. And so she races up to her room, slams the door. Remember, she is 14 years old, she is a teenager, and then she's there looking at a picture of her parents in happier days, asking, why mom, why dad, was it me, something I did, would it have made a difference if I'd been home? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to like it here so much. Sure, I was happy with the X-Men, but I'd have been happier with you. And then she completely switches around and says, being an X-Man is just about the most important thing in my life, but I'd have given it up in a minute. I'd give it up now for you, for us, but you never even gave me a chance. So she hurls their picture across the room. So, this is interesting stuff from Claremont. He's really writing Kitty in a believable fashion in terms about what's happened to her, and also her youth and the fact that she's a teenager and extremely hormonal, like all teenagers, and extremely dramatic on account of that. But it really comes out in Bill Sienkiewicz's art, just what he's doing there with her hair. But wait for the next panel on the next page. Look how wild that is. And he's using, or rather Glynis Oliver is using, but from instructions given by Sienkiewicz, a color hold, and it almost seems like Kitty's hair is almost going, like that it's going alight, that it's going on fire. So enraged is she, and she screams out, I hate you both, I hate you. Wow. So dramatic. But then she begins to calm down on her bed, and for this moment she does hate them with all the fire and passion of her young heart. She's been hurt, her world irreparably shattered, and she wants to hurt back. She's about to get her wish. Unnoticed amidst the shadows, splayed throughout the room by the setting sun, one moves, draws close to Kitty, then disappears. Kitty does not react as her sobs fade to silence, and her head drops onto her pillow, rage giving way to exhaustion, giving way to sleep. To her, nothing has happened, but something has. And we have to wait until the issue is divided, or rather the annual is divided into 3 chapters, and it's only in chapter 3 or act 3 of the story that we learn what happened in this little sequence. But the implication of what happens on the next page is that it looks like it's a silhouette of Storm coming into her room, but we'll learn otherwise by the end of the issue. Midnight. So Kitty appears to wake up. I've been asleep for hours, she thinks. I feel rotten inside, and now it serves me right. Aurora's parents were killed before her eyes when she was younger than me. Oh gosh, I'm going to start crying again after all I've been through as an X-Man. She picks up her parents' picture portrait, and then who is in her room except for Storm? Really nice spotting of blacks there. The lighting on Storm's face is really well done. And Kitty says to Storm, Aurora, hey, great timing, I was just thinking of you. And Storm replies, as I, Kitten, was thinking of you. So Kitty asks her, are you okay? You look kind of funny. And then Storm grabs her off the ground. And the reason is that she has transformed once again into a vampire, or so it appears. And again, great moody lighting there, uplighting on Storm, and just those fangs showing in her mouth as well. And she says to Kitty, I hunger, little one. So the tension and the tension is building in this story. Again, interesting use of a screen tone there in the inks for Storm's nightdress. And then, some more interesting techniques here from Sienkiewicz in the art. So first of all, we get Storm biting into Kitty's neck and throwing the body away. And then we just get this big panel of her exiting the room. And just look at the toys in the room as well, the Jack-in-the-Box and the teddy bear. They look as aghast as maybe readers are at this point. And then here's this interesting sequence, almost like Andy Warhol Xeroxed prints. And we have Storm, just one drawing of her, and she apparently visits one by one her teammates, Colossus, Wolverine, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, granting each a moment of supreme ecstasy. Well, what's the subtext of that? Before casting them into eternal oblivion. They are like family to her. She loves them all, yet she does not hesitate as she claims their lives. Mercy, you see, is a human trait. So this really is shocking stuff for readers. Really do like that little sequence there as the colour is coming in, yellow, orange, and then red at the end, implying the blood that is being sucked by Storm from the necks of her teammates. It's good work on these pages by Sienkiewicz. Let's continue. And then we're told in the narration, and Storm and her humanity have this night parted company. She returns to her attic room for the last time. Look at the decor of her room. Look at that mask on the wall there. It looks pretty freaky. She will never see it again, we're told. She does not care. With a wicked joyous laugh, she pirouettes beneath the open skylight, watching entranced as, for the first time, she transforms from human into bat. Now look at the way that is represented here. It's like she's androgynous, like some of the physical body looks more male in that transformed state. It's almost like, as I said, like it's strange unsexing of Storm into this androgynous but more male looking bat form body. Then with a sweep of her powerful wings, she's airborne. Once more she's a huntress, but it is not prey she seeks. That need has been sated. Now she hungers for love. No words are spoken between them. None are needed as she meets up with Dracula and kisses him there. That's a great sequence by Sienkiewicz. Really well done, and totally horrifying and monstrous, the form that she transforms or metamorphosizes into. But it was all a dream. So she wakes up and sweating, and she realizes that she's human, alive. It was a dream, was it not? So she runs immediately to Kitty's room. She lives, she's untouched, unharmed. So Storm is grateful. She covers her over with a blanket, and she thinks to herself, it has been a horrible day for her. I fear tomorrow will not be much better. The house is silent. My scream woke no one. Is that an omen? But Kitty is awake. But remember what happened earlier in the story. That was no ordinary dream, thinks Storm. She's put on some clothes. At this point, I have been summoned by Dracula. I will obey, because that is one of the ways that Dracula communicates via dreams. He has that power of he has a level of psionic power, and so Storm gets it. That's a great anchor image of her there, transforming into her X-Men costume and taking flight into the night. She thinks also to herself, because he threatens the lives and souls of those I love. Evidently, when he pledged to release his vampiric hold on me, he lied. He will regret that. And that came at the end of issue 159. You can find a review of that on the channel, unaware that she's been watched. Now, what happens next seems pretty unexpected in terms of Kitty's voice and actions. She answers the call, thinks Kitty. At last, the final game is afoot. I cannot act alone, yet I dare not involve all the X-Men. Fortunately, I know the perfect choice for my companion. So she phases into Colossus's bedroom, where he's doing a history thesis for Professor X. And what happens next, again, is a bit of a jaw dropper. So Colossus says there, this is interesting actually in Claremont's script. It's a fascinating subject, Katya. Your American view of the world, as it was, is so different from what I was taught in Russia. Each side claims to tell the truth. Each side is right and wrong. There is so little understanding between our two countries and so much fear. That's very, very Claremontian, a very Claremontian via media perspective on things. Nobody's entirely right, nobody's entirely wrong. Whatever your own opinions are about the point that Colossus is making, it's typically Claremontian. So Kitty grabs Colossus and says, how about bridging the gap, Petey, with our very own personal entente cordiale? So Colossus is wondering, what are you doing? What comes naturally where you're concerned? Stop it, this is not funny, he says. Now, they kissed during the Brood saga in space, when Kitty thought they were all going to die because of the Brood embryos that were inside them. And Colossus grabs her hand and says, I know what happened today was a terrible shock. But she says to him, hush, look into my eyes. What happened today is unimportant. The door is slammed to his bedroom, and he protests, Kitty, no, please. All that matters is tonight. The light is shut off. You can see just the light there under the door. It's shut off. And then he shouts out. So what is going on there? Like, what are readers to think of what's going on there? If you're an adult reader, you're thinking one thing. If you're a child reader, maybe you're confused and don't know what's going on at all. But Kitty is acting out of character here. And as I said earlier, we'll learn why that is later on in the issue. But now we're into chapter 2. So that's Act 1 over, chapter 1 over, chapter 2. Roughly 3,000 miles separate the shores of the United States from those of England. Storm flies it in a day. That's really interesting, that she can fly the Atlantic in a day. It does raise some questions about whether she touches down for a break in Iceland or somewhere like that. But in any case, she's made her way to her destination, a majestic old manor house perched on the rugged coastal cliffs of Cornwall. So that's the southwest of England, soon after sunset. And she thinks to herself, his power led me here, but why? It makes no sense for Dracula to go to so much trouble just to drink my blood. He must realize I'll fight him to the death, to my death and beyond. It's a really nice drawing of Storm there, and in use of a screen tone as well. Sienkiewicz draws her really tall, very long legs. It works for her. It works for her character. It fits and suits her. But we'll see a little later when Wolverine turns up that he draws Wolverine looking a bit too tall for his 5'3". So Storm thinks to herself, yeah, what else could he want from me? I'll learn soon enough. So she uses a lightning bolt to blow open the door. Lightning explodes from her fingertips, shattering the door. A reminder that Storm is not exactly lacking in power either. So she enters and we're told in the narrative captions, in his homeland Dracula was a prince, in hers Aurora was a goddess. So these in many ways are status-wise equals facing each other, and it's why there was some romantic attraction there between them, in the same way that there was between Doctor Doom and Storm as well. But she announces herself that she's there, and who makes an appearance except for Rachel Van Helsing, who has been transformed into a vampire. And the table is laid with food. I really like the detail of the cheese, the block of cheese under the glass bell there. And then Dracula himself makes himself known. And Storm thinks, I'll show no weakness before the Lord of Evil or his lady. And Dracula says, your pride does you credit, Wind Rider, as does your courage. And she thinks, he knew my thoughts. Goddess, is the monster a telepath? Your deity cannot help you, Aurora. We've shared blood, you are mine. So like I said, he's got psionic powers, has to do with his nature as a vampire, but it's something to be remembered about him. It makes him a formidable foe, not just physically, but also mentally. You relinquished your power over me when last we met. Storm makes that point to him, and he says, circumstances were different then. Why am I here, she asks. Why did you break your word? Because I had no choice. So he needs her for something, but they have a battle of wills here, and he wins in this instance, and she finds that old puncture wound on her neck. Blood is coming from it. Your will, your body, your soul, Wind Rider, are mine, he says, having won the battle between them. And like I said, it's one of wills. So he's impressed. He tells Rachel to feed Storm, but it's human food, and because he needs her rested and her strength back in order to get her to do what he wants her to do. So Storm asks Rachel about who she is, and so she reveals her name there, and Storm replies, I know of the name, but I thought you and he were sworn enemies. And Rachel says, so we were, when I was alive. And she was a character from Marv Wolfman's and Gene Colan's Tomb of Dracula stories. So she has a history in Marvel Comics, but this is the first time that Claremont is writing her. And then Dracula arrives back. So you see he has a different look from Storm when she turns into the bat form. Like death, Aurora, I can lose innumerable battles, content that the final victory will be mine. I am eternal, my foes are not, they age, they wither, until eventually the Reaper claims them, or I do. I truly thought our paths would not again cross while you lived. However, my need is such that I could afford neither delay nor the slightest chance of your refusal. Hence the melodramatic nature of my summons. When this task is complete, you'll be free to go. But Storm thinks to herself, until the next time, until I'm reborn as a vampire. So she turns around and faces him and says, since I too have no choice, I will help you with two provisions. No one will be harmed, and there must be nothing to link this affair with the X-Men. So Dracula agrees to that, and now we get to it. So we're more or less halfway through the story, and we get to the reason why he has summoned Storm and what he needs her for. There exists a book which contains a mystic spell for the obliteration of vampires, and he wants her to steal it. So of course Storm in her youth was a thief in Cairo, and she has those skills, so it makes sense on a number of different levels. And here's where the book is stored, the town of Pendarrow, an hour later. So Storm arrives and thinks, by the bright lady, there's an incredible sense of peace and ancient majesty about this place. Reminds me of my African home. And then she asks Dracula, I don't understand, why not break into the castle and seize the book yourself? He says, because that fortress is built atop one of the holiest spots in Britain, a storehouse of eldritch energy that rivals Stonehenge. To come this close is uncomfortable, any nearer and we would be in agony. So Storm says, ingenious, who chose this location? And it was Rachel. Of course, for that and other things, she's paid the price. Time and my patience grow short, woman, he says as he pushes her in the back. Be about your business. So let's see Storm in action. After a brief discussion with Rachel, she's learned about the defenses. Pendarrow Hill is its own defense against the undead, but Rachel took no chances. She knew Dracula could acquire human, living servants to do his bidding, like me, so the castle is further protected by a sophisticated security system. But Storm manages to get through all of that, but somebody is following her in shadows, bearing a crossbow, and shoots her right in the back. Her reaction is automatic, instantaneous, a lightning bolt to stun her assailant. And in her fall from the balcony, she's triggered the alarm. And who is it that's attacked her? It's Kitty Pryde. And Kitty says, I'm sorry, Storm. You serve him now. I can't afford to let you. And then Storm uses her elemental powers to blow Kitty away with a gust of wind. And then Colossus arrives, smashing through a wall, as is his wont and custom. And Storm is shocked. Colossus, not you too? Have I gone mad? And Colossus says something strange. Kitty commands it. So Storm is wondering, what is happening? Why are you doing this? Sorry, she's wondering. The placement of the speech balloons is a little off-putting there. What is happening? Why are you doing this? Kitty commands it. Many have threatened me, says Storm, but I'm still here, alive and whole. And then she pulls one of her tricks that she has up her sleeves, which is she turns the ground to ice and conjures up a gust to blow Storm across the icy floor, and then freezes. She saturates Colossus with atmospheric water before freezing it. So now he's encased in that. That should hold him for a while, she says. Now to complete the mission on the balcony, but then suddenly she sees Kitty. And Kitty has the book. I have the Montesi formula. Before this night is done, Dracula. But what does she mean when she says, beloved sire, you will be dust? And at this point, because this is a double-sized story, in the annual there's 39 pages of story, this is the right moment to draw a line under this review and commentary. This will be part 1 of my review and commentary on annual number 6. So you will find a sequel, a part 2 to this in a week's time. And let me know your thoughts on the story in terms of how it's shaping up here as a sequel to issue 159. Whether you're enjoying it, because I think the first half of the story is much stronger than the climax, but you'll see what I mean when I get to part 2 of my review. And if you enjoy my review and commentary, like the video on YouTube, it really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.